Hi, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today at the Coaching Hour. It seems like it's only going to me, Mareike, your host today. Paul is unfortunately in Cape Town, so he won't be joining us, and Mary might be joining us soon. But nonetheless, we are very privileged today to have Elma Pollard as our guest today. It's the very first time that she's been our guest. She's a life, couples, and quantum energy coach with 3 decades of experience and additional specialization in supporting adults, couples, and families with neurodivergence and highly sensitive nervous systems. And welcome, Alma. It's lovely to have you.
Thank you. It's wonderful to be with you.
Thank you so much. Today, we are going to talk about a very interesting topic, but also very necessary. And I'm really looking forward to this topic because of late, I have actually attracted quite a few clients with neurodivergence. And today, we want to talk about dispelling some myths around neurodivergence. So, Alma, before we get into this topic, how did you get into this sphere of coaching, if I can call it that?
Um, so I've been coaching for a very, very long time, and along the way, my oldest son got diagnosed with ASD when he was 13, and he's now turning 40 this coming weekend.
Oh, wow.
So, and the first thing the doctors will tell you is education, education, education. So all you can do is educate yourself now. So that is what parents are told.
Mm.
So I've been educating myself about this ever since, you can imagine, long, long, long
Mm.
time. And eventually I had a Lamiki, and
Yes.
at 13, she got diagnosed as well. So neurodivergence runs very much in families. Now,
Mm.
neurodivergence also includes ADHD, and my other son has ADHD. So I think we're the whole lot, the whole family, are
Yes.
neurodivergent people,
Yes.
which makes things interesting.
Yes, of course. Um, Now, just quickly to talk about neurodivergence, it's quite a broad umbrella term. Can you tell us what are the type of conditions that's more general that falls under that umbrella?
So many conditions are included. It's autism, as
Mm.
in what's now called ASD, ADHD, dyslexia, dyspraxia. There are many, many conditions that are part of it, and they often come together. It's like
Mm.
50% of people with ASD will also have ADHD, so they run in clusters. They also
Okay.
cluster together very often with mental health issues,
Mm.
particularly of anxiety. 50% of people, of neurodivergent people, suffer from anxiety and or depression as well,
Mm.
basically because the world is so foreign to them
Yes.
and the way that the world reacts to them, which is why
Mm.
I'm a huge advocate for neurodivergence, because it's not necessary for things to be so difficult
Mm.
if the world were a bit more educated. So I end up always trying to educate the rest of the world
Mm.
about, allowing people their divergence. It's like we embrace all genders, we embrace all races. Let's
Yes.
also embrace all brain wirings, not
Mm.
just the typical stuff. So there's neurodivergent people and there's neurotypical people. And most neurodivergent people spend their lives trying to look like neurotypical
Yes.
because that's what the environment demands from them.
Mm.
Otherwise, they are called lazy and rude and all sorts of things. People think they are bad. And that type of acting is called masking. And it's the
Mm.
masking that leads to the other mental health issues because it's hugely stressful. Imagine if you are acting in a play every day, all day.
Yes.
Well, exhausting. It's incredibly exhausting, and the nervous system gets completely depleted. And then you have depression and burnout and lots of health issues come out of
Yes.
that. So yeah, the more the
Mm.
world understands, the better for everyone.
Yes, that makes
So just in
absolute
the end
sense.
of my story, I then eventually decided to, because I've been doing couples coaching also for a very
Mm.
long time, initially called marriage counseling, then couples coaching. And I realized there were always a small handful of people, couples who don't benefit from the traditional systems. They are
Yes.
just not able to do what is expected of them. And that's what then got me interested in learning to do neurodiverse couples coaching. Because I realized in retrospect that in those couples, there was always an element of neurodivergence. And if I'd understood that better, I could have facilitated better communication and a much happier marriages or relationships as well, because there are particular challenges there. So that's when I continued studying just neurodivergent couples coaching,
Yes.
which is something that I'm really passionate about. And now I find in my coaching career, just because I know this stuff, I don't diagnose. I'm not supposed to diagnose. Obviously, a doctor must do that.
Yes.
But I recognize. And so in the
Yes.
back of my mind, I see traits and I know where that goes and I know how to work with that. So for me, it's basically just more advanced
Yes.
couples coaching. Yeah. Even with my one-on-one clients, I can very quickly spot some traits there and then help them with that. And at least validate and understand the challenges, which is the problem already half solved.
Yes, of course. Now, I love that you want to educate people, about this. And I think this is the purpose also of this platform, is to do that. What are some of the myths or misunderstandings that the general public has that makes it more difficult for them? I mean, and them, I'm talking about neurodivergence, but it's very different from someone that with autism versus someone with ADHD. I don't know if we can focus maybe on one and then look at some of the others to understand that better.
They are very much come together because the
Mm,
challenges are often very similar.
okay.
Because it's simply different.
Mm,
And as soon as you're different, there are judgments being made. So the first one is that neurodivergence is a disease that needs to be cured.
okay.
And that's incredibly offensive to people on the spectrum. It's not
Yes.
a disease. It's a neurological difference, a lifelong neurological variation. You
Mm,
don't outgrow it, as some people think. They tend to
mm,
say this child is just naughty, he'll outgrow it, or something like that.
mm,
Um, I want to say, particularly in the Afrikaans community, it's
mm.
very difficult for parents because it's very rigid. This is right and that is wrong.
Yeah.
You have to be incredibly flexible to understand more. So, yeah, the outgrowing story, for a long time, we thought that it was mostly men or only men because
Mm,
there was these typical ways in which it was portrayed. However, it's across the board. A lot of women also are on the spectrum, and they are misdiagnosed tremendously because women are masterful maskers, actors.
yes.
We know how to fit in. We know the public needs and perceptions. So a lot of women are actually masking their neurodivergence and then exhausted at the end of the day. And then they
Yes.
also get burnout and pain and fatigue and all of those
Mm,
things that comes often with gut issues and so on. And so a person just ends up feeling not good enough. There's always the
mm,
not good enough, not right, different, and so on.
mm,
A lot of people think that neurodivergent people lack empathy, which is not true at all. They actually feel their emotions very deeply,
mm,
sometimes so deeply that they can't express them. It's called alexithymia. That's more common in the male side.
mm.
So if male and female neurodivergence presents very differently,
Okay.
almost polar opposite in many ways, though there are some common traits as well.
Mm,
There's a myth that people can't succeed in the workplace. Now, these are
mm,
highly gifted people, often
mm,
very intelligent people, but they have difficulty with executive functioning.
mm.
So they could bring a lot of value to the workplace. I mean, think Elon Musk.
Yeah.
He's one of the most successful and richest people in the world, very much on the spectrum.
Mm,
Um, they bring unique skills like creativity, hyperfocus, innovation, and a big one is the pattern recognition,
mm,
which is why I suspect, my personal opinion is that possibly all or most environmentalists, for example, are
mm,
probably neurodivergent because it's pattern recognition. You see,
Yes.
if this keeps going, it's going to end up there.
Mm.
And you can't understand why can't everybody see it? Why is everybody else happy to just continue? Life is normal, not
Yes.
understanding that we're heading to a very bad place, you
Yeah.
know? So there are a lot of benefits, but sometimes there needs to be accommodations made, and that is
Mm.
where the environmental education comes in. I always say we are our environment. And last
Mm.
night, when I had a chat with my daughter, who's also on a spectrum, I said, well, what is your top need? And she said, environment. I said, yes, absolutely.
Mm.
Because in a good environment, people like this can absolutely thrive.
Yes.
But in a ignorant environment,
Mm.
because ignorance leads to judgment, and
Yes.
that leads to rejection sensitivity disorder, RSD, is very common. Because as soon as someone's wrong, they go into a black hole and they don't want to try anymore. And there's
Mm.
emotional dysregulation happens very
Mm.
easily because now the anxiety has popped out. And when anxiety is playing around, then communication breaks down,
Mm.
misunderstandings occur. The one thing leads to the next. The other stupid myth that's around there is also that it comes from bad parenting or vaccines.
Mm.
That, thank heavens, I don't think a lot of people carry anymore, but it used to be, people
Yes.
used to think that. And then also the myth is that neurodivergence refers only to autism, but it doesn't. It also includes ADHD, dyslexia, dyspraxia, Tourette's, and more conditions like that.
Mm. Mm. Sure. Yeah, there's many myths. And interesting, I've got, for example, a client that is extremely ADHD, and with that comes extreme anxiety and panic attacks and so on. And
Yeah.
that requires a different approach to coaching because the general processes, techniques might not necessarily work well, for someone that thinks very different and their brain works very different from mine. How do you approach someone struggling with like extreme ADHD?
Extreme ADHD and extreme ASD, honestly, they are so intertwined. I find it
Mm.
difficult to separate them.
Mm.
So the main difference is firstly that people like that feel constantly judged and wrong. So they live with a lot of shame. One must always
Mm.
bear in mind shame. You can't just go ahead and say, what I want you to do, or the better way to do this is going to be that. You're going to trigger shame so easily. So the
Mm.
first thing is always a huge amount of validation. People like that, we do always use, don't we, the feedback sandwich and things like that. But in neurodivergent people, that is absolutely crucial. They need their strengths to be validated. And
Mm.
they often not even aware what their strengths are. And all people have strengths.
Mm.
And neurodivergent people have incredible strengths. I mean, it goes together with giftedness. So they should actually be really confirmed. And
Mm.
that's not really what happens in the world. So it's a strengths-based instructions. You're not going to try and change what they're not good at. It
Mm.
is pushing the strengths and
Yes.
confirming that and building self-esteem, hugely important.
Mm.
The coach must always be completely flexible. You can't arrive there and think, oh, I'm going to do this and that. It
Mm.
doesn't work like that. The coaching, it has to be led by the client,
Mm.
and you need to find out what that particular person needs. So there's also some myths around, oh, ASD looks like that and ADHD always presents like that.
Yes.
Every person is unique. So
Mm.
you've got to get to know that person's particular wiring and their particular needs and their particular strengths and how to support them in a way that they don't get shamed or judged, because that's already a big thing. If you can
Mm.
validate, and then you work out instructions or ideas together.
Mm.
Everything must be collaborative. You don't
Mm.
tell anything. You ask questions,
Mm.
and also use different media. You could be using multiple formats. You could be using
Mm.
voice. You could be using video. You could be using WhatsApp even. Some people prefer
Mm.
to write, so it's different.
Mm.
Communication must always be direct and concise. The more you
Mm.
ramble around, the more confusing it gets for a person that's neurodivergent. So it's got to be straight. They like straight talking. Sensory needs need to be accommodated, like bright lights or noisy things. I mean, I hope you can't hear the vacuum cleaner running at the bottom. Some people have to have fidget toys, that needs to be allowed. And then you create these collaborative goals. Now, the goals needs to be focused on their themes, their values, and their immediate needs. It mustn't be too abstract and far-fetched.
Yes.
It's more immediate. And neurodivergent people often have very, very deep values because they spend a lot of time thinking about things, and things have to align with the values. Otherwise, they feel out of sorts and they won't be motivated. Remember the biggest need for neurodivergent people is agency, because that's always a struggle for agency, because people are always telling them to be different. So allowing them to lead. And then also a big part of this work would be self-regulation and self-awareness to help them with that, because that then makes executive functioning easier. So common challenges that people that are neurodivergent have is this executive functioning stuff. And that's ordinary everyday things, paying your bills, your hygiene, getting your groceries, very practical things that people take absolutely for granted. That is actually difficult. So now you can imagine, for me, coaching neurodivergent couples. Very often the neurotypical person wants more support on all these practical things from the person on the spectrum.
Yes.
But the person on the spectrum really can't make sense of any of it, and needs, far more careful, direct instructions, notices as reminders, because it doesn't really make sense there. You can imagine all the difficulties that couples also run into with us.
I can imagine, yes. Another executive function you mentioned is communication. Like, for example, one of my other clients, very proficient in writing, WhatsApp and so on, but speech is the challenge. And he would like to be very confident, etc. So how does one, struggling with communication, overcome those barriers? Because it's something that needs to be learned over time, etc. I don't know if you've ever dealt with something,
We deal with communication issues all the time. And
Yeah.
couples coaching, I mean, couples is all about communication. Ultimately,
exactly.
that's what it's all about. And so now you've got these challenges in different ways of receiving communication. They make sense of it differently, different ways of communicating back. You can imagine misunderstandings and so on. You cannot change the wiring of a neurodivergent person.
Okay.
So it's to work with what is there, to explain to people that they are different but not deficient. So you aren't going to try and change a person to mask neurotypical communication. It's very much to do with the partner learning to accept a lot of the challenges that the other party has. And that is a big chunk to bite off sometimes for people. There are a lot of things that you need to accept about the wiring of the neurodivergent partner, instead of constantly trying to get them to change. So that is where my original model of marriage counseling, as it was called then, would fall flat completely, because you have to understand there's a divergence here. So you cannot have expectations that are not in line with that. And there are other ways. I mean, if you want your partner to express emotional passion or positive emotions, which is often very difficult. It's often some people cannot express the emotions at all, and others can only express negative emotions because they've received so many of it. There are other, because you want to know, do they love you? I mean, that's always the question behind every conflict in every couple is, do you love me really, is the question. And you teach people then to read the message behind that and find other ways to show appreciation. It might not be verbal. It might be through a gift or time together or a little trip somewhere. There are always other ways. We
Yes.
cannot dissolve the obstacles, but we can work around them. And that's really what we do in the
Yes.
couples work.
Oh, perfect. And I think that's applicable to any couple, neurodivergent or not, to no longer have those expectations of what you want in a relationship or how you want to be treated a specific way. So I think it's a good lesson
Yeah,
both ways.
I think the old models were very demanding. Because you want this, and you don't get that, you feel, oh, he doesn't love me, We were not very accepting of people's limitations, and they are real. And people don't have to be diagnosed to have challenges.
Yes.
You might have some small aspect. It's a huge spectrum that people can fall on.
Yes.
They might be overtly looking so functional, but in interpersonal communication and deep and intimate communication is where the challenge comes in. Because neurodivergent people see communication often as a means to portray information.
Okay.
Whereas neurotypical people can see communication as a means to connect. And that's a huge, big, different thing. Now, that is a communication that might be very difficult for a person. So are there other ways to connect? And when the partner becomes aware of this and stops interpreting things as rejection, oh, he doesn't care, oh, he's lazy, we make all these judgments, we cause our own pain. And with understanding, you can change the whole dynamic within a relationship and actually help people to feel better and appreciate what they have. I mean, I'm not saying that everybody's needs are not absolutely crucial. They are important. But if you can't have a good communication about your topic of interest with your neurodivergent partner, you may have a friend that you can talk to about that. Or somebody else in the world that's also interested in that topic. You cannot get everything from that partner. And I think tolerance is something that I teach a lot, and also in my family, to teach everybody to be tolerant of each other and not think. People on the spectrum often think their needs and their understanding is the same as other people. It's called theory of mind. It's not the same. It's completely different. And that's such an important thing to learn, that what you have to accept different wiring will have different needs and different expectations and different expressions. So just I think tolerance is my big thing, and compassion, But that's where education helps a lot. If you understand these things are there for a reason, it's not that the person is just not bothering or lazy or whatever, then everything becomes so much easier.
Yeah, I think with that awareness comes power. There's something you mentioned earlier. You said that neurodivergent individuals' wiring cannot change. And I've noticed that you said you're also a quantum coach. So is there other techniques that you then use if you say that the wiring cannot change?
Yes, now in quantum energy coaching, we look at the subconscious mind, which is established in the first 7 years of life according to what you make of what happens around you. So because you now have a narcissistic brain at that age, and you have an absorbent brain, what the child makes of what happens in the environment, say the parents are fighting, the child feels to blame for everything. So now it internalizes, I'm bad, I'm wrong, I'm responsible for things going wrong, there's something wrong with me, all of these things. We all did that in the first 7 years. And now it shuts down. After that, you sit with this subconscious mind that has all these irrational thoughts, lies, entirely lies. So in quantum energy coaching, we go and look at what's lying there. It's subconscious, so you aren't always aware of it, but in our interactions, I'm able to start recognizing those thoughts behind there. And those are the things that we can change with neuroscientific techniques that is part of quantum energy coaching. We actually can change. It's like a mental upgrade. It's a defrag of your hard drive. And that actually changes your perception of yourself and your relationship with yourself. And for me, that's the most important thing, to actually start loving and liking yourself
Yes.
and understanding that you're okay. No
Mm.
matter what, you are actually okay. You're not
Yes.
bad, you're not wrong, it's nothing wrong with you. You're
Mm.
actually okay. I mean, that is a huge relief. And I find that people on the spectrums also are very open to that on the whole.
Mm.
I mean, I let the client lead. If a client wants to work that way, we can work that way. We don't have to work that way. Um,
Mm.
it depends on what the client wants.
Yes. Okay. And but you found that it's quite successful. Um, does that not, in a sense, change some of the wiring if those negative or underlying subconscious thoughts start to change?
I won't say that it changes the physical wiring in your brain that
Mm.
you are born with,
Mm.
but it definitely shifts your self-esteem.
Yes.
And out of self-esteem, everything changes. Because I
Okay.
mean, the world is a reflection of yourself. You look at the world the way you
Mm.
look at yourself. So
Yes.
if you change that, I just find it makes people a lot lighter, a lot
Mm.
happier, a lot more compassion with self. Just take the pressure off this constant self-criticism,
Yes.
which doesn't benefit anybody anytime. But
Mm.
yeah, a child that grows up that is somehow always wrong, somehow don't understand things so well, processing slower at school. I had a friend whose little boy is in grade 1 now,
Mm.
and he's definitely neurodivergent. And this week he had an accident
Mm.
in his pants, and
Yeah.
the teacher did not handle that correctly at all.
Mm.
Already I'm wrong, there's something wrong with me,
Yes.
I'm bad, everyone else is better. Those type of programming,
Mm.
we want to try and avoid that more.
Mm.
And we need to, most adults are wounded in that sense. So we
Yes.
can all defrag and just become kind. I
Mm.
always say your mind is like your inner garden. It's currently completely jumbled with
Mm.
weeds everywhere. You can't see the path. It's just a big mess. And now we go and we pull out the weeds, we open
Yes.
up the paths, and then we plant
Mm.
flowers. Make it a beautiful place
Yes.
inside,
I
because
love
the
that.
world is going to reflect your beautiful inside to you as well,
Mm.
which is cool.
Mm.
That's what you want.
Yes, absolutely, yes. And I think there's many adults that is undiagnosed. I mean, myself, I think only later in my life I realized that, because I work with individuals also, every single day, I realized that I might be, or have ADHD. I never knew it because it's part of who you are. You live
Oh,
your life according to that. You make it work. You work around it. It's never been a problem, but now I've been noticing that maybe this is true for me, but I don't make anything about it because it's just part of my personality. That's the way that I see it.
the thing is, you are functional enough,
Mm.
and your life is, you're obviously successful. And so the other things that you maybe not that good at, I mean, maybe you're not that good at a stupid thing, paying the bills or whatever. I
Mm.
personally always run out of toilet paper in my house, by the way.
Yes, I get in
That's joke
trouble
on
a
you,
lot for that
is it?
because I
It's
don't
a
buy
standing
toilet
joke in the
paper.
family. I do a million things, but I will run out of toilet
Yes,
paper. Practical
same.
little things. I mean, there's often challenges with time
Mm.
blindness, being late or forgetting altogether,
Mm.
or um,
Yes.
that is also where the flexibility comes in again. I mean, I've recently had a little client who I think 3 times in a row forgot the session.
Okay.
And my old self would have thought, you know what, is it not important to her? What's going on here? Completely wrong. It's
Mm.
time blindness. So I could help her to develop a better system of writing down where's your journal, let's see how it works. Practical
Mm.
little things.
Yes, that works for
I
you.
can help her um, um, make accommodations for herself
Mm.
that will make it better for the world as well.
Yes, definitely. Thank you so much, Alma. This is fascinating. I think, at some point I would love to talk about the quantum coaching aspect, a little bit more as well. And there's many other things I know that you also do. Will be fascinating. Where can people get hold of you if they really resonate with what you're saying today and they want to learn more or maybe just grow as an individual?
I can give you my cell phone number for WhatsApp messages.
Yes.
084
Mhm.
868 2908.
Okay,
My
perfect.
daughter is working on my website, so
Okay.
it's not currently up. And
Yes.
then I also run SASM, where they can find me, integrativemedicine.co.za.
Mm.
I'm the CEO there, and yeah, I'm on Facebook, I'm everywhere.
Perfect. So they can just Google Elma Pollard and I'm sure you will pop up
They will
somewhere.
find me, absolutely, yes.
Yes, great. Thank you so much, Alma. It was very nice meeting you, and this is a very interesting and I think important topic. I think the more education we can, bring regarding this topic, the better. I think there's a bit of a lack of understanding and lack of comprehension of, how to deal with individuals with neurodivergence. So I think the more we do that, the better. So thank you.
Yes. So thanks so much. It was great to be here.
Thank you. It was very
Bye.
nice. Thank you. Bye. And thank you so much for
Bye.
everybody that is watching or listening on Spotify. We look forward to seeing you again in the next session. Bye.